How's it going, you guys? My name is Adrian, otherwise known as AZPlyo21, and here today we're going to be going over some picks and bets for this weekend's UFC fight card, UFC Fight Night, Luque versus Muhammad. And in case you don't know who I am, my name is Adrian, also known as AZPlyo21. I have had this YouTube channel for quite a while now. I play a video game where I essentially am the booker of fight cards. It's pretty cool if you want to check it out. The game is called WMMA 5. I have a very long series where I run the UFC, book fights, sign fighters, all good stuff. But let's talk about what you guys are all here for, and that is the fight night. We want to know the picks. We want to know what we should be putting our money on. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First things first, make sure that whatever you're doing, you're betting at your own risk. All the odds that you're going to be seeing here today are from FanDuel. Any stats that I reference are from SureDog.com. And again, a lot of this is just going to be my own opinion. All of it's going to be my own opinion. Please don't take these picks as gospel. Do your own due diligence before you make any picks, before you place down any bets. Don't waste your money on, chasing that goal or anything like that. This is all fun. Fighting's fun. Sports gambling's supposed to be fun. So please do not, bet any money that you cannot afford to lose. Gambling helpline down there if you need some help or if you know someone who might need it as well. Let's go ahead and get things started with our first prelim. Heili Alateng taking on Kevin Croom. Looking over this fight, both guys very random kind of assortment of wins and losses. Neither guy really has a specialty, or at least a specialty as far as finishing their fights and whatnot. Croom hasn't had a win in the UFC yet, coming off a loss to Brian Kelleher. Heili Alateng coming off a draw with Gustavo Lopez. My pick in this one is Heili Alateng, and you can see that little confidence meter there. That's going to be on every pick. That's not to say that I am not confident in that pick. That's just out of 10 of how 100% lock sure I am that this result is going to happen. And if you want a prop for this one, my money is on Alateng via decision. Moving on to the next prelim, we have Istela Nunes taking on Sam Hughes. 3 out of 5 wins, I should say, for Hughes are via submission. 4 out of Nunes' 6 wins are via decision. Both of her losses have come via submission, so a little bit of an upset alert maybe there for Hughes if she's able to lock in a submission. However, Hughes has not been very well in her last 3 outings. 0-3 in the UFC, her loss to now ranked Luiana Pinheiro. Istela Nunes, on the other hand, 0-1 in the UFC. Her last fight, a loss to Ariane Carnelossi. My pick is on Nunes here, and the confidence on that one is a 4 out of 10. Moving on, Jordan Leavitt making, or not his UFC debut, it's going to be Trey Ogden making his UFC debut against Jordan Leavitt. Leavitt, very impressive start, 3-1 in the UFC. One of those wins coming on Dana White's Contender Series. His last fight, a win over Matt Sales. 11, look out for this one, 11 of Ogden's 15 wins have come via submission. And because of this, Leavitt's also got a lot of submission wins under his belt. Because of this, my confidence is not that high on Leavitt, but Leavitt is my pick. Very impressive. He's gotten, some wins in the UFC, and that's always very important to get that UFC experience under your belt. My prop is that this will not go to the distance. Someone's getting a submission in this one. This is not going to go the distance. Moving on, kind of a fun fight, honestly. This is going to be Huggy Bear Chris Barnett, the heavyweight, taking on Martin Buday. Martin's UFC debut last fight was a win on Dana White Contender Series over Lorenzo Hood. Barnett had that really good knockout win, spinning wheel kick, as a matter of fact, over Gian Villante. 17 of Barnett's 22 wins are via knockout. Same thing can be said against Buday. 7 out of his 9 wins are via TKO knockout finish. My money's on Buday here. He's had a very good time in his last couple of fights outside of the UFC, obviously. My confidence on this one is 8, and I believe that the prop you should go for on this one is Buday via TKO or KO. Moving along, we have Rafa Garcia taking on Jesse Ronson. Ronson had 1 fight in the UFC, a no contest to Nicholas Dalby. Garcia on the other end, 1-2 in the UFC, a win over Natan Levy his last time out. 7 of Garcia's 12 wins coming via submission. My money is going to be on Garcia for this one. Confidence is a 3 out of 10. Moving on to our first pretty much lock of the afternoon, we have Drakkar Klose at 11-2-1 taking on Brandon Jenkins. 0-1 in the UFC is Jenkins. His last fight, a loss to Zhu Rong. Klose is 5-2 in the UFC. His last fight is a loss to Beneil Dariush. That is not a bad loss to have, in my opinion. My money's on Klose at minus 590. That wouldn't be a lot, you know, but I don't necessarily pick just single fights. You'll see what I'm talking about later. My confidence is at an 8 out of 10, and the prop I'm going for is Klose via decision. 7 out of Klose's 11 wins are via that result. Moving along, our first out of only 2, that's right, only 2 ranked fights on this card. We have number 11, Lina Lansberg in the bantamweight division taking on Pannie Kianzad, the former runner-up for the Ultimate Fighter. Lansberg's coming off a 2-year layoff. She's also 40 years of age, you know, getting up there in age. She's also 4-4 in the UFC, coming off a loss to Sarah McMahon that was 2 years ago. McMahon in herself has, you know, did really well. She got a pretty exciting win over Aspen Ladd the other day, but that 2-year layoff, man, it is just not looking good. This is going to be another lock for me. For Kianzad at minus 420, the confidence is at a 9, and Kianzad via decision. 12 of her 15 wins have been via that result. I just feel it's going to be Kianzad via decision. Devin Clark taking on William Knight in the light heavyweight division. 8 of Clark's 12 wins are via decision. Clark is a very, I don't want to say boring fighter, but he's very in and out, in and out. He'll grapple with you, push you up against the cage, control you against the cage. We've seen this time and again from Clark. He's been successful, 6-4 in his UFC career. His last fight was a loss to Ion Q Chalaba. William Knight, on the other hand, 9 out of his 11 wins are via KO TKO. He tends to get a little sloppy, but I feel like he just has that edge in the stand-up game. If he's able to hit Clark, whenever I see Clark get hit, he tends to kind of bottle up a little bit, gets a little wobbly, does not like getting hit, Devin Clark. I feel like this is going to be Knight via knockout. My confidence is at a 5 because, like I mentioned, Knight can tend to get sloppy, but that's a very, very good pickup there, Knight at plus 148. Moving on, Manur Lazez taking on Ange Lusa. This is a fight that was actually just made yesterday as I'm recording this. Lazez coming in on, I believe, 4 days' notice, trying to replace Aleziu Zaleski dos Santos. 8 out of Lazez's 10 wins are via knockout TKO. Lusa's coming off of a win over John Howard just, I mean, as I'm talking, 11 days ago. So a 2-week turnover for Ange Lusa. And this is my, like, flyer of this weekend. I feel like, you know, guy coming in, he's already kind of loose. 2-week turnaround. I'm going to pick Lusa in this one at plus 172. Confidence is at a 1 because I don't have very much to talk about with Ange Lusa other than the fact that he has that win. And, I mean, if you've seen pictures of him before, he's stacked, absolutely jacked, Ange Lusa. So this is my one, you know, kind of flyer for this weekend. Pat Sabatini taking on TJ Laramie in this contest. Both guys, Dana White Contender Series alumni. 10 out of Sabatini, 16 wins via submission. Sabatini perfect in the UFC thus far. His last win being over Tucker Lutz. Laramie 1-1 in the UFC, losing to Derek Minner his last time out. Another kind of lock in this one for Sabatini at minus 420. My confidence is at an 8 for this one, and the prop I'm going for is Sabatini via submission. And no odds on these props as of yet. FanDuel has not released the prop bets for fights other than the main event. They always release them about a couple days ahead of time, but these are the props that I'm going for. Moving along, Mayra Bueno Silva taking on Yanan Wu. 5 out of Silva's 7 wins are via submission. Wu's last win in general, irregardless of what promotion, was 3.5 years ago. I mean, a very impressive record, 12-4, but keep in mind, I mean, hasn't won for nearly 4 years, and the majority of those fights were outside of the UFC. Wu herself is 1-3 in the UFC, losing to Jocelyn Edwards her last time out. And Silva's last loss was to Minot Fiorot, who, I mean, is climbing up the rankings as we speak. Very impressive loss, I guess I could say. Silva at minus 480, another sort of a lock. And my prop for this one is Silva via submission. Moving along, Miguel Baeza, Caramel Thunder, taking on Andre Fiallo here. 7 out of 10 wins for Baeza via TKO KO. We saw him have a very, very violent knockout over Matt Brown not too long ago. Same thing for Fiallo. 11 out of 14 wins, TKO KO. Baeza, 4-2 in the UFC. The last fight was a loss to Chaos Williams. He's coming off a 2-fight skid, as a matter of fact, after going perfect 4-0 to start out. Fiallo, 0-1 in the UFC, coming off a loss to the very exciting Michelle Pereira. This one, my confidence meter is at a 3. I feel like Baez is going to have enough to get through this one, but the prop, this fight is absolutely 100% not going to the distance. Both these guys looking for the knockout. Should be very exciting at the welterweight division, a very stacked welterweight division. Moving along, in one of the weirdest co-main events that I've ever seen in some time, we have two guys making their UFC debut in the co-main event of this one. And I feel like something's got to give, because there's no reason that they would put him in the co-main event for absolutely no reason. They must be expecting something, some fireworks to come out of this fight if they have two guys in the UFC coming onto their debut and they put him in the co-main event. Omar Gadzhiev, 13-0, undefeated coming into his UFC debut here. Baralo won 2 fights on Dana White's Contender Series within 3 weeks. He won a fight, didn't get offered the contract, then took another fight just, 2 weeks after the fact, won that fight, and then got offered the contract that way. It's a very good way to get in the UFC's graces, is taking short notice fights like that. So congrats to him. Super stoked for him. This is still a very weird co-main event. But my money's on Omar Gadzhiev, the undefeated fighter. 11 out of Gadzi's 13 wins are via finish. Baralo had very mixed kind of decision finish kind of wins, but this fight's not going to the distance. Like I said, something's got to give with this. They must be expecting these guys to deliver fireworks if they're putting them in the co-main event, and we have no idea who they are. Moving on to our main event, Vicente Luque taking on Belal Muhammad. Vicente Luque, number 5 in that division. Belal Muhammad, number 6. Both these guys have been on a tear, and I mean, you couldn't have two different fighters. Luque, 19 out of his 21 wins are via finish. 15 out of Belal's 20 wins are via decision. So this has the making of a very give and take kind of matchup. And because of that, I feel like it's going to go deep into the fight. The only thing is, I think that Luque is going to get it done via submission. Picks at minus 188. Confidence is at a 5 because Belal has the tendency, to get it done. But my prop for this one is Luque via submission. His last 2 wins have been via submission, and I feel like Luque is going to keep that going. So if you want to move on to what I'm actually placing my bets on, all the fights that I just went over, all the winners that I had predicted, I'm putting all of those into a 14-leg parlay. I'm doing a 14-leg parlay as a round robin with 4s. So I'm having 1,001 total bets. So essentially what that means is that I'm placing 1,001 4-leg parlays, including all of those fighters that I picked. Combined, I'm betting 4 units for 25.4 units. That's the max that I can win on that one. And I'm also placing my flyer. I always place a bet the entire card parlay, just in case, I end up being 100% correct on my picks. That 14-leg parlay, a quarter of a unit for 172 to pay out. I mean, why not? It's not that big of a bet, but with a big payout like that, why wouldn't I? And then my one big prop bet that I'm doing is Luque via submission in round 2, 3, or 4. 1 unit with the potential to win 9.5. Sticking with my guns there on that submission prop for Luque. So a unit to win 9.5. My total bets as far as these UFC fights, 5.25 units for a potential 206.9 units. The next time I see you guys, I'll let you know how I did, whether I won or whether I lost. And we also are coming to our final one, the Bellator bets. We have a Bellator fight card this weekend, and I'm going with a little bit of an experiment. Now, whenever I watch Bellator, there's always a lot of regional fighters on the undercard, and I've noticed that sometimes the regional fighters, the odds on those are always very, very weird, because you have a lot of 1-0 fighters facing off with a lot of amateur fighters making their pro debut, or 0-2 fighters. Sometimes the odds on those are very, very wonky. So a little bit of an experiment that I'm doing is placing a 6-leg parlay as round robin. So I'm making them round robin for 2s. So that's 15 total 2-leg parlays on these fights. So I have Benson over Haig at plus 530, Ramirez over Cerronio at plus 530, Gracie over Miller at plus 350, Mendez over De Los Santos at plus 250, Rakeem Cleveland, kind of a journeyman, but I mean impressive in his own right, over Tyrell Fortune at plus 600, and I have Corey Anderson beating Vadim Nemkov to win the Bellator Light Heavyweight Championship. That's at plus 138. 0.5 or half of a unit for 10 units. maximum that I can win. I'm going to see what happens. I mean, it's not that big of a bet, but it's just an experiment to see if my hypothesis is correct with these regional fighters and these odds being wonky on these Bellator cards. So that's it for that Bellator card. Like I mentioned, not much going on there. Aaron Pico's also on the card, but the lines are stupid for that fight that he has against Adley Edwards, so I'm not even going to bother with it. But other than that, thank you guys for watching this video. It's my first one talking about UFC picks and bets and props and things like that. Appreciate you guys as always. Good luck, whatever you decide to do with your bets. Once again, do it at your discretion, do it at your own risk. Appreciate you guys. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Check out one of my WMMA 5 videos as well if you have not already done so. Follow me on Twitter at azpalayo21 or at Instagram at theadrianpalayo. Appreciate you guys as always, and you have a great rest of your day, and good luck.